Live from the 607, it is the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour, where we're talking sports locally and nationally. Why don't you join in the conversation with the hashtag ODPH? Here we go. And welcome to another edition of the ODPH. I'm your host, Ken M. Sitting across me this week is Padawan J.
Hello, hello, hello.
Folks, we thought it was going to be a quiet week, but fear not, we have a lot of sports to discuss because one scathing interview has really kind of took us by surprise and really has stolen the show on preseason football for the NFL.
Well, so you would think it's about, Tom Brady and other various veteran quarterbacks, how they're looking, how the Eagles are looking, how Andrew Luck might be looking now that he's back to football. Where's Des Bryant going to end up? And then somebody on the defensive side of the ball decided to go, nah, I'm going to take the headlines.
Hashtag ODPH if you want to join the conversation on social media, because we want to hear from you about the scathing interview that Jalen Ramsey from the Jacksonville Jaguars decided to cut in a GQ interview this past week.
Yes, you heard that right. Somebody on the Jacksonville Jaguars decided to, go all macho man.
Yeah, this was really, I want to say surprising because Ramsey has developed a rep that he likes to trash talk.
Sure.
But I guess where it really kind of took me aback a little bit is he is really kicking off the season with giving every team he's facing a ton of bulletin board material.
Which is something some of those teams don't really need.
No, they don't, but they're going to definitely respond. I mean, just to take some paraphrases he's using in the interview, he goes after Buffalo Bills draft pick Josh Allen, saying he's trash. He goes after Joe Flacco, saying flat out, he sucks, close quote. He goes after Marcus Mariota, says he's a good game manager. He's going after Jimmy Garoppolo, kind of questioning if he's really that good. Jared Goff from the Rams, saying he's quote-unquote average to above average. Dak Prescott's okay. Ben Roethlisberger from the Steelers is decent at best, quote-unquote. Eli Manning is only good because Odell made him that good. And the list kind of goes on and on.
See, the one that kind of bugged me the most is it makes sense for him to kind of give those grades, quote-unquote, if you will, if he's actually played them. But the one that kind of rubbed me was, saying Josh Allen is trash. And I'm like, dude, you haven't even played him yet. How would you know? Like, I get if you're watching film and you already doesn't look that good, but there's a difference between watching a guy on film and then actually playing him.
Yeah, I mean, it was really kind of surprising that he's just going after a draft pick out the gate because to take from the interview, quote, I think Allen is trash. I don't care what nobody say. He's trash. And it's going to show, too. That's a stupid draft pick to me. We play them this year, and I'm excited as hell. I hope he's their starting quarterback. End quote.
Well, so yeah, they do play each other. He is correct on Sunday, November 25th in Buffalo at 1 p.m. as it stands.
Yeah, which, I mean, going after him was a little crazy, but I thought for going after some of the veterans in the league, like Joe Flacco just flat out saying, quote unquote, he sucks. Going after Matt Ryan from the Atlanta Falcons saying he's overrated. And more telling was going after Pittsburgh Steelers starting quarterback Ben Roethlisberger and saying he's decent at best.
Well, you got to remember he's probably giving that assessment based off of the Pittsburgh's playoff performance last year, which, yes, it was a shock, and yes, it was a surprise. And yes, Ben is on the latter half of his career and possibly on the downward slide, as it were. But I wouldn't say he's decent at best. I'd say he's pretty good.
I would definitely say he's good. He's definitely in the upper echelon of current NFL quarterbacks playing the game. You know that you're going to face the Steelers. Ben is going to give you problems. Mm-hmm. He's a seasoned veteran. Yeah. He's won Super Bowls. When you win Super Bowls, you kind of have some room to talk.
Yeah.
Consistently and appearing in the playoffs too, that does help. Because that means once in a while you'll have your kind of fluke teams that get in with a quarterback that really plays above their skill set, so to speak.
Blake Bortles.
And you can argue that, too, because Blake was, I remember last season we were talking that he was going to get ran out of town. And the one thing that Jacksonville has going for him is they've had some success, and they have a very young team that has success. So with that going into effect, I wasn't really taken aback by Ramsey's comments because I figured, well, he wants to generate a little buzz for his team. Sure. But going after a lot of the quarterbacks he's going to be facing, I really was going, I don't think this is such a great idea.
No, I mean, the thing of it is he's in the third year of his 4-year he's going into the third year of his 4-year contract. Presumably, I'm presuming it's his rookie contract. Mm-hmm. So he's looking to make some buzz because he'll be coming up on a contract year. So you wanted your name out there so that should he not return to the Jacksonville Jaguars, team go, oh yeah, Jalen Ramsey, he's a great player and somebody we can really use in our locker room. That makes sense. But I look at his stats and they're not really jumping out all that great to me. And granted, yes, he was selected to the Pro Bowl and a first-team All-Pro defender. Thing I've said with not only Pro Bowl but All-Star games and whatnot to a certain degree is they are to a large extent popularity contests.
Yeah, I mean the Pro Bowl is one thing, but
Right.
consistently putting up your stats and take nothing away from him, he's a very talented football player. I don't question that at all. I just question that you've had one really good year with Jacksonville.
Right, Jacksonville prior, of course, last year 10-6, made the playoffs. Lost to New England in the conference championship, but you look at the records a year prior, and I'm going to go backwards starting at 2016, 3-13, 5-11, 3-13, 4-12, 2-14, 5-11, 8-8, 7-9, 5-11, and then you got their last winning season prior to the most recent one, which was 11-5.
Yeah, to kind of just take your shots there. I mean, it's one thing to kind of be feeling your own success and really thinking, okay, we're going to run away with things this year that we've only gotten better. But do you really want to be shooting off and giving teams bulletin board material? Because Buffalo, obviously, if Allen is going to be the starting quarterback, he's going to have a little chip on his shoulder, and you're going to really provoke him. You know that if you have to face Pittsburgh again, Roethlisberger is probably foaming at the mouth.
They do play Pittsburgh. They play Pittsburgh week 11, which is Sunday, November 18th at 8:20. That's a Sunday night game.
And he's going to want to get at him. And
prime time? Oh, he absolutely will.
And then, of course, Joe Flacco, if he's still starting quarterback for Baltimore at that time, you're going to just paint yourself a bullseye that I don't really think a young team like that really wants on them.
Right. And I mean, I'm looking at his stats here, courtesy of ProFootballReference.com. His rookie year, he's played in 16 games and started all 16 of them. 2 interceptions for 65 yards, 1 interception for touchdown return. His longest was 35 yards, and he had 14 passes defended. You look at it last year, again, 16 games, started all 16 of them, 4 interceptions for 35 yards, and then no touchdown returns. His longest was 18 yards, and he had 17 passes defended. And if you pull up the NFL league-wide interception stats, as stats go, because there are people tied, he's technically tied for 12th. But if you count out the names in front of him, he's 20th on the list.
Yeah, I mean, he's had some success early in his career, and it's not to say the sky's the limit for him. He can definitely play. There's no question of that. But I'm just looking at it as going, okay, your team is a very young team.
Yeah.
Had some really good success last year. I mean, you have an up-and-coming star with Leonard Fournette as your running back.
Sure.
And your defense has now garnered a reputation of being a shutdown defense. Do you really want to tick off some good majority of the league by calling your shots on them?
See, I would understand if it was like a week-to-week thing. Like they're playing Minnesota this coming Saturday in the preseason. It's a 1 o'clock game. Now, I could understand if he was like trash-talking Stephon Diggs and Kirk Cousins and the stuff with Minnesota. That I could get. That's not uncommon. But you've had one good year. How do we know this isn't a fluke? Because you've seen that. You've seen this in the NBA. You've seen this in Major League Baseball. You've seen this in the NFL, and you've seen this in hockey, where you've got a team who all of a sudden comes out of nowhere and makes the playoffs, gets really far, potentially wins. I'll give you a great example: Kansas City. Kansas City Royals a couple years ago. I don't think anybody saw coming and making it to the World Series, let alone winning the darn thing. And look at where they are now. Everybody from that team is gone, and they're not even going to make the playoffs.
No, it's one thing when you're a young team and you fly under radars, which I think Jacksonville did last year.
Absolutely.
I guarantee you they did. Everybody knew their defense was going to be good. Did they expect them to be that good? Probably not.
Yeah.
And Blake Bortles played above his usual level of playing.
Yeah.
And you can't say that he didn't, because he really was demonstrating his high draft status.
Yeah.
And after a lot of the talk was he was going to get ran out of town. And it was really kind of, I don't want to say surprising he re-signed, I think for the amount of money it was. But at that point, Bortles had kind of earned his contract and earned his status on the team. So you can't fault him. He led him to the AFC Championship.
Right.
But going in with this, and not to say that Ramsey was ripping every single quarterback in the league. He did not. He had high praise for Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Carson Wentz, Deshaun Watson, even Tyrod Taylor, who he said is one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the league.
Right.
But just for calling his shot and going after quarterbacks that have had success in this league, and I think especially for week 1, taking a shot at Eli Manning, who I just was really going, he's won a couple Super Bowls.
Yeah.
He's been very consistent. I mean, is he flashy? I mean, it depends on what you want to look in a quarterback. But you really want to start off the season in week 1, where the Giants have very much improved over last year and are going to have a very healthy receiving core. You're going to try telling me that that's not just giving them more fuel to the fire to make a statement kickoff week?
Oh, it's absolutely giving fuel to the fire. As to his statements on Eli Manning, I will abstain from commenting because I'm slightly biased.
Well, being a Patriots fan, you got it.
Yes. And so before anybody hits up the show, yes, he did. Jalen Ramsey did have 55 tackles his rookie year and 52 tackles last year. Sorry, when you're a cornerback, I don't care how many tackles you make. It's about how many interceptions you're making.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're technically 20th, although if you want to get really technical, it's tied for 12th. You're not wowing me all that much. Now, if I would understand this if they had 2, maybe 3 good years, and like they might have made the playoffs one year, gotten close. You know, like the one year what was it? Brady went down, and you had whoever it was take over for him, and they just missed the playoffs by like percentage points against the Dolphins.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I would understand if you had a couple years like that where like you just missed the playoffs by like you lost against one team that, you know, that was the tiebreaker. I could understand that trash talking then. But when you had one good year, you surprised a lot of people, you still have stuff to prove in my mind. Mm-hmm. I don't see why you're doing this.
I don't either. I mean, other than generate some headlines and generate some noise for your team, which, I mean, if this is going to rally the team to get behind them and really set an example for the league, sure. Mm-hmm. Okay. But now you have just painted such a big bullseye on your team and on you because you know every quarterback is going to go after you. So you can't afford to have a bad game.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it just shows that if you really are that confident in your abilities, yeah, sure, call out everybody.
Right.
But you had better show up every week and back it up.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can't have an off week now. Because you know Eli is going to go after you. You know his receiving core is going to have his back.
Oh, yeah.
So have fun trying to guard Odell Beckham Jr. opening game and shutting him down.
I'm saying get ready for Saquon Barkley potentially dump trucking you.
Oh, yeah. You know that team is going to rally around Eli. Mm-hmm. And especially after all the drama that happened with the Giants last year.
Right.
This is going to be a new squad that comes out, and you know they're going to want to hit the ground running. And not to say that Jacksonville isn't going to show up for that game. I think they do. But now that defense has to be lights out.
Right.
And their offense has to be putting up about, 28 a game?
Something like that.
Easy. Because now the pressure is going to be on Blake Bortles that your defense has now been writing a lot of checks that they got to cash.
Right.
Can they do it? I think they can. But are they going to do it consistently? Who knows?
Well, Jalen Ramsey's performance this week is going to be a little absent as he was suspended by the Jaguars for conduct unbecoming of a Jacksonville Jaguars player. This according to Adam Schefter. He was suspended because he was, quote, going after local media for what he believes is unfair treatment of his teammates, especially Dante Fowler. So his performance this week left to be desired.
It'll be left to be desired, but I think as much, if you talk to many football fans, preseason really doesn't matter that much unless you want to see how your draft picks are playing.
Sure.
I don't think it's going to bother Jacksonville or Ramsey one bit that he's sitting out for 1 week.
Right.
I think it'll bother him if it's week 1 against the Giants.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I think it's going to be hitting.
Yep.
But in closing, football season is definitely in full swing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, who thought the biggest story of the preseason thus far was going to be an interview?
I'm going with nobody.
Nobody. But definitely let us know what you think of Ramsey's comments. Do you think he's right on the money, or do you think he's way off base? Let us know. Hashtag ODPH. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hey, this is the King of Lisle, Luke Visengard, Gladius 205 champion, and you're listening to the ODPH.
Coming back for segment number 2 on this week's ODPH, and I got to talk a little boxing.
Oh, yeah.
Now, the biggest rematch in recent boxing history is just shy of 30 days away as we're recording.
Mayweather-Pacquiao too?
No.
I guess I'm the only one who wants to see that again. Just kidding.
That might be you, my friend, because the one that I want to watch the rematch for, even though it was already decided in my mind and in a lot of people's minds when they saw it fight the first time, was Triple G versus Canelo Alvarez, September 15th, live on pay-per-view. is coming. I didn't realize it was actually coming so quickly because there's been so many other sports going on.
Right.
But going in with this, and I'm just going to use this in comparison to the UFC because, I mean, the biggest fight in UFC history, arguably, is coming up a month later.
Sure.
Which one do you think is having the most impact on mainstream fans right now?
I would say Conor versus Khabib because, in all honesty, and I'll asterisk this, that is simply because for me, I'm more of a UFC MMA fan than I am a boxing fan. But I feel in general, you are seeing more advertising on TV, more articles written, more tweets tweeted about Conor versus Khabib than you are Canelo versus Triple G. Because yes, I did watch the first Canelo Triple G fight with you, and I knew they were going to fight again. Until you said something to me a little bit ago, I had no idea it was this close. Because to me, this is bad marketing. I haven't seen a thing about this. Like you said, they're what, a month out?
30 days away.
30 days away. I have not seen any bit of promotion for it.
I haven't until recently, and I guess because the first time the fight was supposed to happen, Alvarez had tested positive for a banned substance, I believe.
Right, yeah, it was something like that.
It was the whole tainted meat he
Yeah,
had,
yeah.
and something was wrong. So going in with this, I think some of the luster is off the fight.
Yeah.
And I know from watching the first fight, and trust me, if you have listened to past ODPHs, you know how amped up I was last year for the first time these two fought.
You were a little excited.
Absolutely, because for boxing, and I've always been a boxing fan, but recently in years it's kind of taken a backseat to the UFC and mixed martial arts.
I'd say it moved about 3 seats back.
Arguably. And you can, because where boxing they don't do enough super fights.
Right.
I mean, you talked about Mayweather-Pacquiao. I mean, that fight...
For the record, I don't want a sequel to that fight. That first fight was awful.
Well, right, because it was years past the prime.
Right. It was the fight that everyone wanted to see in 2005, but didn't happen until 10 years later.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing that hurts boxing, in my opinion.
Right.
But this fight, if you've been following the sport, you know what Alvarez is doing, and you know what Triple G is doing. This fight, when they first went at it, was great, albeit, though, Triple G won that fight.
Right.
You can't tell me otherwise.
I'll say, I again, not a huge boxing fan, but I did watch the coverage of it, in the hours and days afterwards. And watching Teddy Atlas go bonkers on ESPN was quite the sight to see.
Because he was like me. There was no way that should have ended in a draw, which it did. Which, if you watch the fight, Triple G had Alvarez on the ropes for most of the middle rounds. Alvarez turned it on late. I'm not going to say he didn't.
Right.
But it was too little too late at that point. I think at one point, I had one round being a 10-8. I'll be honest. Like, Triple G was imposing his will and picking his shots about like 5th, 6th, 7th round. He was really amping it and getting in there. So to say it was a draw, that was one thing I'm just sitting there just rolling my eyes and going, okay, you have the biggest boxing match in recent memory.
Yeah.
And you're going to end it like this.
Let's say the biggest boxing match in recent memory that there really isn't any asterisks with it going into it, a la Mayweather-Pacquiao. It's, that's just past its prime. Oh, who really cares about these people?
Right. But if you're watching boxing and you know that for the middleweight world championship, these guys are in their prime. This isn't going to be one of those, we should have seen this 5-10 years ago. We're seeing it right now, where everybody is at their peak level. And to see this, just, how it ended, and then, okay, we were supposed to do the rematch, I believe.
Right.
It was May 5th.
Something like that, yeah.
And then all of a sudden we have the tainted meat situation, or whatever you want to call it. Just basically Alvarez was suspended until
I remember reading about that before you did. I sent you a text message, and I think I got an all caps UGG back.
Yeah, because the fight needed to happen, and just to have it, I guess the shadow cast upon it, okay, illegal substance, whatever you want to take that as, it just really dampers the fight, because this was boxing's big breakout fight.
Right.
In my opinion, this was going to definitely make some noise that they haven't been getting lately.
Right. This was supposed to be the fight that, your casual boxing fans tuned in to watch, your hardcore ones tuned in to watch, and this was supposed to be the one that your folks like myself, who really aren't that much into boxing, is supposed to bring them in and go, hey, this is kind of cool. I think I'll watch more of this.
Yeah, because other than this, I think the only fight that fans are really trying to see happen at some point is Wilder and Joshua for the heavyweight title.
Right.
That's the only one that I think is really jumping other than this fight. But this fight can't end in another draw. And with everybody's records, I mean, Alvarez is 49-1-2, 34 KOs. Triple G, 38-0-1 with 34 KOs.
Mm-hmm.
So put that in perspective. You're going to see fireworks. They're definitely going to go for the fences. And for Triple G, he's trying to retain the world title for the 21st consecutive time. Let that sink in.
Mm-hmm.
21 consecutive times that he's going to defend and retain the title if he can pull this off.
That is impressive.
Yeah. I mean, let that sink in. I mean, this is not a slouch fight by any stretch.
Right.
But this fight needs to happen, and it needs to have a definitive winner. This cannot have one of those fights that, okay, if Triple G, hypothetically saying, let's say Triple G dominates again, and it goes to another draw.
Well, that'll kill boxing.
Oh, any interest for a third fight would go out the window.
Yeah.
You really need to have a back-and-forth battle to end in a draw. And if you have the same fight, if it plays out the way the first fight did, I'm sorry, there's going to be no interest.
No.
None. And for all the fight hype that's going to be around this, because this is going to be the biggest fight of the year. There's no question of that.
Mm-hmm.
For boxing, because I know Wilder and Joshua is not anywhere near close to happening.
Right.
I can't remember. I know one of them has a fight coming up. I want to say it's Joshua has a fight coming up with another opponent. That being said, and as you can tell, I'm not really following who because the fights, there's no real hype behind them.
Right.
Whereas you look at the UFC and everybody, whether you're a mainstream fan or a hardcore fan, knows the impact of McGregor versus Khabib.
Right.
That is your mega fight.
Oh, yeah, that's the one more people are talking about.
Yeah, and it's generating more hype. And why is that? Because you have the guys that are in their primes fighting at the perfect time.
Well, and the other thing is you also, and I just thought of this, you also have the guys that are larger-than-life characters. And I'm not talking larger-than-life characters like in wrestling terms. I'm talking guys that, just make sound bites every time they talk. You look at Conor McGregor when he won, his second belt, and he's in the octagon. Oh, where's my second belt? Where's my second belt? And, the clips that, you just hear. Boxing really hasn't had that since, Muhammad Ali and Mike Tyson, who, the larger-than-life characters. You had Ali in the ring. Oh, I'm a bad man. I'm going to hurt him. And, Tyson with everything he did. Boxing really doesn't have that these days. They don't have these larger-than-life characters who, anytime they talk, anytime they say something, it's making news and people are tuning in.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and yeah, you're absolutely right with that. I mean, boxing, at least to mainstream fans, has really, I don't want to say fallen off, because it has and it hasn't. But when you're looking at the more marketable names, if you talk up to a random fan on the street and you go, hey, do you know who Triple G is, or do you know who Conor McGregor is?
Mm-hmm.
Why is that? Because McGregor is the hype guy. He is, like you say, he does like the Muhammad Ali. He's, a character that's almost larger than life.
Yeah.
But he goes in there and he fights. It's not like he goes in there and disappears.
Right.
But for me, it's like, I know who Triple G is. Triple G is one of the best pound-for-pound fighters on the planet. And so is Alvarez. So when this fight actually happens, this is what you wanted to say, this is what boxing is all about. Because you're going to have two guys imposing their will. One is going to win. Now, the last time it happened was Triple G. This time, I tell you, it's going to go one of two ways. It's either going to be Triple G does the same performance and leaves no question in anybody's mind,
mm-hmm.
or Alvarez switches up something. And honestly, when I was watching the fight, I didn't see how he was going to be able to switch it up, because Triple G he took him out of his game and just really was imposing his will. We had him up against the ropes for the good majority of the middle rounds.
Mm-hmm.
When he was doing that, it didn't look like Alvarez had a good answer to him.
Right.
It's not to say that Alvarez hasn't been working on it, but it remains to be seen. And we're only going to find out on the 15th.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just hoping that nothing else goes crazy with this fight. I want to see this fight. I'm amped up for this fight. I do like talking boxing. This needs to deliver. But this has to have no question, no draw, no nothing. A decisive winner. And if Alvarez wins, I'm okay with a third one.
Sure.
Because in my mind, Triple G won the first one. You can't tell me different. I won't hear it. If Alvarez wins the second one, you got to do the third. You got to do the immediate rematch.
Mm-hmm.
But let us know what you think. Hashtag ODPH. I want to know, what's your thoughts on Triple G, Canelo, round 2, happening September 15th? Are you excited for it? Are you not? Do you want to talk more McGregor, Khabib? We want to know. Hashtag it up. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hey, this is Rob Kacharik from the band 607, Autopilot Off and Walking Distance, and you're listening to ODPH.
Coming back for another segment on this week's ODPH, and we've been talking about boxing, we've been talking about a little bit of fighting. Dare I say, what is going on with Major League Baseball? Are they trying to take a page out of that book?
So I don't know, man. Somebody must not be eating their Wheaties for breakfast or something, or the heat's getting to them.
I tell you, playoff pushes are really getting on teams' nerves, it seems like. Pat, why don't you break it down for us?
So I had a bit of setup for this. Game last night between the Atlanta Braves and the Miami Marlins. There is a player for the Atlanta Braves, a phenom player by the name of Ronald Acuna. Now, if memory serves, he is the number one rated prospect in the Braves organization, if not all of baseball. I believe so. I know for a fact he's the number one rated prospect in the Braves system. Pretty sure he's number one in all of baseball. So he got called up a little while ago and just started hitting the cover off the ball, really opening people's eyes to how good he is. So he's 20 years old too, so he's super young. So he'd homered in 5 straight games and led off the last 3 games going into last night's game with a homer. And more to the point, he homered twice against the Marlins on Tuesday night. So with that in mind, he's on a hot streak. He's hitting homers left, right, and center almost at will. So then you get Marlins starter Jose Urena comes in, first pitch of the game, and hits him in the elbow with like a 96, 97 mile an hour fastball.
Man.
Now, you can go watch the video. There is plenty of links to find it online. I heard about it, saw the video, and immediately thought that was intentional. That was deliberate.
It looked it to me as well. I mean, just first pitch of the game, and you really are throwing high and inside like that. I mean, that just the intent looked like it was there. Note how I'm wording this. It looked like it was there.
Yeah, because you can brush a guy back. You can throw behind. There are ways to send a message to a batter without drilling them in a body part. There are more, Roger Clemens is famous for it. Guy starts crowding the plate, he'd throw it in on him and go, hey, back off.
It was just a really crazy scenario because, I mean, like you said, Acuna has been on a tear. And just the first pitch of the game, and like I said, or like we've been talking about, he's been lighting the Marlins up.
Right.
So there's smoke, there's fire.
Yeah, and I don't understand why you would even do this. Yeah, okay, it's like, Michael Kay said during the Yankees broadcast, because the thing that happened with this is the video started circulating because most, if not all, baseball broadcasts will do a thing where if, whatever the division team is doing, they'll show highlights. If something big happens, they'll show highlights. So the Yankees broadcast showed this, and Michael Kay and John Flaherty were on the call last night, and, of note, Michael Kay said, brought it up, and I think it's perfectly said, if you're playing basketball, and let's just say LeBron James, if you're playing LeBron James and LeBron James is lighting you up for 40 and it's the third quarter, what are you going to do? Are you going to punch him in the face?
Yeah.
No, you're going to find a way to shut him down.
Well, that's the thing. It's at the end of the day, it's still a sport. You shouldn't be getting that emotionally invested that you're trying to injure somebody.
Right.
Because they're putting on a better performance than you. That's just goes against anything of sports, period.
Right.
Sports is supposed to be a competition. It's supposed to be one person versus one person, one team versus one team. You don't have to go in there with the intent to physically hurt somebody.
Right.
And when you're throwing a baseball directly at somebody, maybe you're not trying to hurt them per se.
You could kill a person.
You could, if you hit him in the head.
Yeah.
Where this pitch was directly in the elbow, and was it to just make sure he didn't hit a home run? That's what it appears.
Right.
But at the same token, what you should be doing is saying, okay, I have enough faith in my pitching ability that I'll be able to strike this guy out or get him out at the plate. That is the essence of what you should be doing as a pitcher. You shouldn't be going out there with the intent to hit somebody because, like I said, you could hurt somebody. Take a look at it. Take a look at Aaron Judge.
Yep.
He had a hit to his wrist, which was unintentional, and his wrist is still broken.
Right.
The 3-week window that he was supposed to return.
They're now finding is a little generous.
Right. That being said, so if you're intentionally, as it appeared to be, throwing at somebody, look at the damage you could cause.
Right.
You could hurt them.
Well, and now luckily Ronald Acuna Jr. is lucky. They did an X-ray Tuesday night. X-ray came back negative, or excuse me, Wednesday night. X-ray came back negative. CT scan came back negative. The game they're playing against the Rockies today on the 16th as we record, he is hitting leadoff, so he is still playing. He's not getting any time off, so, good for that. Also, interesting note, Marlins pitcher Jose Urena is the first player to be ejected after the first pitch in the innings since May 16th, 2009, when John Lackey was pitching for the Angels and hit Ian Kinsler and got ejected after the first pitch.
That's not a stat you want.
No,
and it's not. And hopefully, cooler heads can prevail moving forward.
Now, and I'm not an expert on the Braves bullpen, but it's not good for your bull. Now, if the Braves got a long man in the bullpen or somebody who can start, can relief, but he's in the bullpen just because you have enough starters, okay, fine. But if you don't, you're all of a sudden, because this is the first, not even an out had been made. One pitch had been thrown, and he drilled this kid and got ejected. If the Braves don't have a person in the bullpen who can go long innings, you're all of a sudden taxing Marlins. Marlins, not Braves. If the Marlins don't have somebody in the bullpen who can go long, then all of a sudden you're taxing your bullpen for a lot of hours.
It's just one of those situations that, okay, emotions run high.
Yeah.
And I get that in sports, but you have to have a cooler head when it comes to that.
Yeah.
Because you also hurt your team now that you've been ejected. You could have really done some damage to the player that you just want to get out of the game. Because, like I said, when you're throwing a ball that fast,
you
can't really control the direction. You try to the best you can, but...
Right, and of course, this isn't a good look for the Marlins. You look at the Braves, they're in first place, 68-51, right? Only 2 games up on the Phillies, so that's going to be a dogfight to the very end of the season. And then you look at the Marlins, who are 48-75, and you're 22 games out of first place. Come on, man.
Yeah, it's just a bad look overall. And, hopefully the Marlins pitcher can definitely rebound from this. Because, like I said, it could just been one of those things that just emotions ran high. And, doing what he did, if he's really remorseful about it, this should be a one-and-done thing and shouldn't be brought up again.
Of course, as we record, there has not been any announcement for a suspension or any type of punishment yet. But I would imagine something's coming.
I would imagine so, too. You take a look at what happened with the Dodgers and the Giants, where, Hasiel Puig and Nick Hundley have both had some suspensions come down. Puig was handed a 2-game suspension, and Hundley, I believe, was only just hit with a fine.
Which is weird, because I saw the video of this thing happening, and Puig explained it after the game. There was a pitch, I forget what point in the game this was, but there was a pitch, Puig swung and missed, and he was angry at himself, and he said this after the game. He knew that was going to be the best pitch the pitcher threw that entire at-bat. So he kind of tossed the bat up in the air, not high, maybe all of 6 inches or so. And, he tossed it up and immediately caught it like, darn it, that was my pitch. And the catcher said something to him. Now, of course, tradition in baseball, nobody's saying what.
Yeah.
But things were said, and that got Puig rather heated. And so then, because it's Dodgers and Giants, and you can go back in history and look at the history with these two teams, it's not
Yankees Red Sox, but it's up
close.
There.
It's close. So that thing got things going between them. I think the part I enjoyed about this the most was Andrew McCutcheon's explanation of the whole thing. If you haven't seen that video, look it up. It's a riot.
Yeah, that's amazing.
But it goes back to this, okay, Puig 2-game suspension, okay. But really, if the Giants catcher really did just get a fine, he instigated the whole thing.
It's just one of those things that you can just tell as the playoffs are moving forward and teams are really trying to solidify their places. Tempers are running high, no matter what. If you're a team that's already out of it, you're not wishing your rivals the best of luck.
Right, you're not going to exactly roll over and play dead.
No. So, that's what I said. That's the early report I believe I read. I could be wrong about this. If I am, #ODPH, let me know. But just going into it is baseball tempers are running high, and you really just kind of want to fall back and go, okay, this is not the essence of the game. This is not what we want to try doing. You can play the game with passion, but you don't want to do it to where we're getting into a situation where somebody can get physically hurt.
Right.
Not saying that these cases we're going to go in that direction, but when teams are fighting, you never know what could happen.
It could, because I remember, I forget what year it was, but there was one year the Cardinals were playing the Cincinnati Reds, and there was a brawl that started off, benches and bullpens cleared, and they were fighting behind home plate. And one of the pitchers got pinned up against the wall and then the netting that's immediately behind home plate. And he started kicking with his spikes. Now, he wasn't doing it to hurt anybody. He was just trying to make sure it wasn't a scene like, running of the Bulls in Spain where he gets trampled.
Yeah.
And he ended up kicking a guy and ending his career.
Yeah.
Brawls like this, while they're fun and, you think back to Nolan Ryan and Robin Ventura, it's all right, let's get it on, ring the bell. There are careers at stake.
It's just a matter of you're getting away from the essence of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And the essence of the game is competition. It's not this to do anything where you're physically hurting somebody.
Right.
Or you have the potential to physically hurt somebody.
Mm-hmm.
For baseball, it's all about one team versus one team. One player versus another player at certain degrees.
Mm-hmm.
That's where it needs to just go back to the essence of. So baseball definitely did not have a good look this week, in my opinion.
No.
But going forward, the playoffs are heating up. The races to get to solidify positions is definitely taking another degree advancement, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
So let us know what you think. What was your thoughts on Acuna getting hit, and what was your thoughts on the Giants and Dodgers this week? We want to know. Hashtag ODPH. Let's talk some baseball. We're going to take a quick break, round those bases when we come back.
Hey, this is Brian Wolf from Fair City Fire. You are listening to ODPH, the greatest podcast in Binghamton.
Woo!
Hot lips touching, cool thighs feeling, shudder running up, her spine spinning, long day to a long night, but I'm not stopping till I get it right, get it right.
Coming back for the final segment on this week's ODPH, and let's talk that local minute pad.
Oh, boy, some Binghamton Rumble Ponies schedule here. They are at home, coming home for a, 6 games here in the local 607. Of course, tonight, as we record Thursday, they are playing Akron at 6:35. Friday, the 17th, they are going against the Reading Phillies with a 7:05 start time. Saturday, the 18th, again, playing the Reading Phillies with a 6:05 start time. Sunday, again, Reading with a 2:05 start time. Then Monday, the 20th, they're playing the Altoona Curve with a 6:35 start time. And then Tuesday, the 21st, they're playing Altoona again with a 6:35 start time. All tickets and other information, bingrp.com.
Definitely get to the stadium if you got the chance to, because the season is winding down, but the games are always a good time.
Yep.
So going into that, let's round those bases. I'll lead off this week because
Sure.
there's another sporting event going on in town. Now, our sound guy galore, JR, is the one that's the big golf aficionado amongst the panel.
I can watch highlights, but when it comes to the whole thing, not so much.
I can too. So he definitely wanted to make sure that we were plugging the Dick's Sporting Goods Open
Yeah.
at the Enjoy Golf Course here in Endicott, New York, going on the 17th through the 19th at least. I know it's been going on. The weather here, if you've been following us on the social media, has not been the best.
A little crazy.
And we do hope that everybody that has been affected by the flash flooding in upstate New York and northeast Pennsylvania is doing okay, and wishing you guys a speedy and safe recovery if you've been going through it. But the golf is going to be going on this weekend. And speaking of golf, because JR was blowing my phone up talking about Tiger is back.
Has he won?
He did not win, but he
Okay.
placed second
Okay.
in the PGA Championship this past weekend, August 9th through 12th. Came in second. Can't go wrong with that. This is the biggest finish he's had in a long time.
Right.
But it's noteworthy that maybe this is a sign that, he's getting back to form.
I'll say I'm having deja vu, though, to past instances where, Tiger looks like he's back, looks like he's got it, and then he just falls off a cliff.
Right. And going through from where he was to where he's fallen from grace and now kind of coming back into, playing form, so to speak, I would like to see him do a little more consistent, place finishes.
Right.
Doesn't say if he has to win necessarily every tournament, but if he starts landing in the top 5 of each tourney, then we can say, okay, Tiger is officially back.
Yes.
But this past weekend was a great outing for him, and like I said, he almost pulled it off too. So it's something to watch, and I know especially they're trying to hype up the series between him and Phil Mickelson down the road.
Yeah.
That there's something going on there. So if it's any way that he can get back in form to see him versus Phil in that little shootout they got going on, I definitely am excited to see. And like I said, I'm not the big golf guy. That is sound guy galore, so shout out to him. Pat, what you got?
Well, Little League World Series is going on, so of course that's always fun to watch because it's the purest form of the game. It's kids who just love to play, love to win, and some of them just hit monster home runs. Looking at the schedule as we record, it's Thursday. Australia is defeating Mexico in a 2-1 score in the top of the second. South Korea defeated Puerto Rico in a 4-2 score. Iowa defeated Staten Island, New York defeated Des Moines, Iowa in a 5-2 score. And then at 7 o'clock, Rhode Island is playing Texas. Looking ahead to Friday's games, you've got Spain playing Japan at 2 o'clock on ESPN. Then you've got Michigan playing Idaho at 4 o'clock on ESPN. 6 o'clock on ESPN, you've got Panama playing Canada. And then rounding out Friday, you've got Georgia playing Honolulu, Hawaii at 8 o'clock Eastern on ESPN.
The Little League World Series is always fun to watch.
Oh, yeah.
Because you want to just talk about the essence of the game is the kids that they're not playing for contracts.
Nope.
They're not playing for draft status.
Nope.
They're playing because they love playing baseball.
I'll say it's the one time where you can watch baseball and somebody hits a home run and the entire team is out there surrounding home plate waiting for him to come home.
Yeah, it's just a cool experience if you get the chance to go down and watch the games. And if you can watch them on TV, I know that we've had our Maine Endwell representative team win the actual World Series a couple of years ago now.
Yep.
God, it feels like almost yesterday.
So they've been up there twice, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm. So it's always cool just to go out and support Little League Baseball if you can. So the games are going to be aired on ESPN, I believe?
Yep, ESPN. And then as the tournament gets further along, I believe it's going to move to ABC.
Yes. So it's always a fun sporting event to watch. Now, before we wrap up this week's episode, we're going to just give you kind of a little scheduling heads up, if you will. Next week, we're planning on taking the week off of the sports show.
Barring anything crazy happening.
Yes, because and knowing our luck, that's usually what will happen. So expect something crazy happening in sports, so we'll have to do an impromptu show.
Yeah.
But we're going to be taking the week off and coming back the following week with our big NFL preview show.
Got to do our notes.
Absolutely. Coach Duffy has guaranteed he will be in studio.
Okay.
And Coach Duffy, if you haven't been following our social media, is working on a vlog for the ODPH on our YouTube channel. So keep your eyes out for that. Coach has been working on that, but he is guaranteed he will be in studio. Sound Guy Galore JR is 50-50 right now. He will be returning from paternity leave after Labor Day, but he said he's going to try sneaking in. If not, we're going to be breaking down everything about the NFL season leading into the first games, and we are also going to be unveiling who is in the Locks and Leaps Invitational.
Oh, boy.
Stay tuned for that. But that's all we got for this week. So for Padawan J,
Thank you.
I'm your host, Ken M. Thank you, as always, for listening to the ODPH. We'll see you next time.